On the heels of an appearance in the Final Four, Nate Oats has the Crimson Tide hoops again operating at an elite level. Yesterday, I caught up with Coach Oats for a quick conversation on the ever-improving state of Alabama basketball. Here it is. Thought you were the perfect first guest here because on the very first day of practice, I was in Tuscaloosa watching you guys, and it was had a few major takeaways there. First of all, the hospitality, I just appreciated it so much because you allowed me to watch film with you guys, got to watch practice, even got to talk a little X's and O's with you afterwards. But my biggest takeaway from that day was just the amount of attention and correlation your program had with the NBA. From the offensive concepts you guys were running to your defensive terminology to understanding that that was the goal of every player in your program almost. I mean, it doesn't seem like that is a theme that you guys shy away from. In fact, it seems that that's something that you really embrace. Was I right in that perception?
No, it is. It's similar to when I was at Romulus. I kind of came in there and said like the number one goal was we're going to get kids in college and get them scholarships. I think it would change their lives. We did that quite a bit. So when I got here, not to the point where it's above winning, but they should be hand in hand because I think you can run a modern offense, a NBA offense, if you will, and win at a high level in college. So, and the more you win, the more they want you at the next level. So, I think it helps motivate the players. It's the way I want to coach. I want to study modern offense. I want to stay on the cutting edge. So we're showing our guys NBA clips every single day in video. We show them, we've got a former NBA assistant running both the offense and the defense. They're both head coaches in the G League, so they've been in development. So, we show them NBA clips of how it's supposed to be done defensively. We show them NBA clips of how certain things are done offensively, and we talk about it a lot. And I think it's worked. We've put a lot of guys in the NBA, and we're running a very modern offense, particularly in comparison to a lot of other college offenses. And, we've been able to win and put guys in the NBA both at a pretty high level.
All right. Now, you've mentioned a few things there that I want to dig into. The first one, though, was you talked about how you have an assistant coach running your offense, a different assistant coach running your defense, and then a third assistant coach who heads up recruiting. And that is a pretty unique staff organization. But it seems to be very efficient. Where did where did that stem from? Was that more of like a football idea, or where did you come up with that philosophy?
You know what? It's a good question. I started doing it at Buffalo. I kind of ran the offense and had, some help by various years. I think Jamie Quarles was with me running the offense, and I had Jim Weitzel all 4 years running the defense. He did an unbelievable job. And then Brian Hodgson was out recruiting all the players. And then, and I don't want a recruiter that's not involved. So, like, I typically have the recruiter do personnel on the defensive side. Preston's in charge of player development on the offensive side. He does the personnel on the defensive side. That seems to go hand in hand with player development. So he's super involved with the X and O's as well. But, Ryan and Brian, neither one of them have to worry about recruiting much at all during the season. They just lock into trying to get our offense as good as it can, our defense as good as it can. And it's how football does it. I think some basketball teams do it. It started back at Buffalo, and I've continued here, and I like the way it works.
The thing that really resonated with me that day was the amount of autonomy you gave all your coaches, because the coaches running the offense basically ran the offense. The coaches running the defense basically ran the defense. And I specifically remember there was one point, multiple points, obviously. You were the quarterback through the whole thing. But I remember at one point you said to your guys, hey, I'm not the only voice you hear. So when I talk, you better listen. And everybody just zeroed right in on you. Like you could have heard a pin drop in that gym. So I think that kind of being able to develop your coaches and simultaneously, it really creates a hierarchy where they know, like, when you speak, it's something that they've really got to lock in on. Is that an added benefit of that philosophy?
Yeah, I think it is. Because if the head coach is the only one talking nonstop, then like you can't emphasize stuff as well, in my opinion, because they get tired of hearing your voice all the time. So, I let Ryan run our offensive cleanups. I let Brian run our defensive cleanups. I thought Charlie Henry, he came out of the NBA when he was here and ran our defense. He did an unbelievable job, and I liked it. Now I used to run our offensive cleanups myself, and then Petway got better. But sometimes I bring a guy along that I bring in. And I also think it helps the assistants as they go to be head coaches. We've got 4 former assistants here that are head coaches and doing really well. Brian's got Arkansas State really rolling. Petway's done a great job at Kennesaw. Charlie's much better in year 2 at Georgia Southern, and then at Austin's at Texas San Antonio. So I think having a voice and kind of being the head coach of your side helps them, but it also helps the program, because I'm gonna be able to and when I focus in on one thing, they better know it's serious, and I'm gonna focus on 1 or 2 main things, and that we better get that stuff fixed immediately when I'm the one focusing on it.
All right, now let's talk about recruiting. Obviously, you are a head coach who is very open to playing freshmen. You recruited a high level every single year. You talked about how Preston Murphy heads that up for you. But you've had 4 different guys, if I'm not mistaken, in just 5 previous years who've been one and done: Kyra Lewis, J.D. Davison, Noah Clowney, and Brandon Miller. You have another great freshman class this year. Is there something about your system, whether it's player development or just an openness to allowing these guys to play through mistakes, that allows that one and done pedigree to really take hold?
Yeah, I think the few things go into it. One is we're not calling sets every time down. You look at how the NBA plays, it's a players' league. You teach them concepts, you let them play in the flow as much as possible. So then, you teach them all the kind. You get them in the beginning of the summer. So these guys come and you have them all summer, all fall, and they're not memorizing sets like maybe you would in a football team or a lot of different basketball programs that run a set every single time down. So I think that they're able to assimilate into it better. When you get high level players, typically they've got a pretty high IQ on being able to understand concepts, and you just teach them how you do it in your offense. Go back 3 years ago when we did have Brandon Miller, we started 3 freshmen. We were the number 1 overall seed in the NCAA tournament. It was Jason Bradley at the point guard, Brandon Miller at the 3, Noah Clowney at the 4, and Brandon and Noah are both starting in the NBA right now as second-year players. So, I think we've done a good job putting a system in. We trust the freshmen, and that's the other thing. Like, we're not playing older guys just because they're older. We keep a lot of stats. We've got a lot of analytics, and if we're better with you on the floor, you're playing. So Noah Clowney came in, and look, Noah Gurley was a great player, and I love Noah, and he helped us become the number 1 overall seed. But we're better with Noah Clowney in there to start the games and play a little bit more, and he beat out a 5th-year senior, and there's no politics involved here. We treated, Noah Gurley great, but if you're the better player, you're going to be on the floor. That's period. That's how we do it. We take leverage numbers, and if our offense and defense are better when you're on the floor, you're going to play.
Alabama-lytics, is that what we call it? Did I get that right?
Bamalytics. That's Adam Bowman, my director of analytics, came up with that. Bamalytics. They got all the shirts. Your boy Preston Murphy wears this Bamalytic. I'm not sure how much he has to do on writing code for the analytics, but he wears the Bamalytics sweatshirt a lot.
And Coach, while we're talking about the freshmen, you had 4 top 50 guys come in this year. Obviously, LeBaron exceeding all expectations. He was doing that the first day of practice when I was there, and that has continued. Can you talk about what you've seen for him? I'm not sure if you had these expectations. I will admit I certainly didn't expect him to be this good, this quick. So how has he been as effective as he has been?
Yeah, no, I didn't have these expectations either, to be honest with you. And when he got out of his commitment to Kansas after they took all the transfer guards, I mean, one of his statements to us was, look, if I'm not going to play much as a freshman, I'd much rather be at home in Alabama. So, he just kind of came in with the mindset, I'm just going to come in and work hard and get better with no expectation of any minutes. But with that mindset, and I think that's the correct mindset, I think that's the mindset of most of our guys that have made it. They just, I'm going to earn every minute I get. That way they play as hard as they can. They're not gifted any minutes. They don't have any sense of entitlement. So he came in and played his tail off the first day of practice in June. And he competed, and he was super coachable. His competitive nature was higher than what I'd thought. You know, I saw a lot of games when he played at Baker and the level of competition was as high. I do think it helped that he went to Link and played a higher level of competition for his last year of high school. And then he's got to go against Mark Sears, who, you know, may be the best guard in college basketball, and he's got to guard him and go back and forth with him all summer and fall. So I think that's made him better. And then he's got some natural instincts that you just can't coach. I don't want to sit here and act like we've coached this guy all the way into, no, like we've put him in a great system. We've given him a ton of confidence. He's earned it by playing hard, having no sense of entitlement. And then he's got some natural instincts that you just can't coach, that defensively and offensively both. And he's gotten significantly better. We put him in a system. We've given him time to play, and he's shown he's going to be really good in the NBA, I think.
Coach, just my last question. This is your 6th year. You've been a number 1 seed. You've been to a Final Four. This is the 2nd straight year you've had a top 3 offense in the country. But when you first came to the program, you know, there was a lot of talk about, oh, it's a football school. And you quickly rebranded it, said, no, we're a championship school. And now that was proving to be a sign of things to come. What has gone into you taking on these historic Blue Bloods? And just do you, I know it's hard in the middle of the season, but do you ever get a chance to step back and say, like, hey, this is where we were 5.5 years ago. This is where we are now, and we're on the verge of potentially even better things?
Yeah, I mean, I came in here with the expectation that the school had enough resources to really support a high-level sports program, no matter what it was. I mean, we've won 18 football championships. We've won national championships in softball, men's golf, women's golf, gymnastics. I mean, I think there's 6 different sports that won national championships. So we knew we could win at a high level. They'd been, you know, middle of the pack in the SEC for a long time. Since we've got here, we've got more wins than anybody in the SEC. SEC wins, that is. I think we're tied with Kentucky, and obviously they had it rolling at a pretty high level before we got here. So we're competing against somebody else that was at the top, and we were in the middle, and we've raised it. And I think at this point we've got more than anybody. So I think it's support from the administration. You're at a place that wants to win at a high level in every sport that they offer. And then we've put a system in that recruits want to play in, that obviously works. And nobody really was playing like we did in the SEC when we got here. I think more of them are trying to play faster and more modern, spread out now than they were then. So now you're like the one different school. They've got to get ready to play you on a 2-day notice when they're playing, you know, back then 13 other real similar systems and not ours. And I think that helped us a little bit. Now we've just got to try to stay a year or 2 ahead of everybody else. You know, if they're trying to copy the best offense in the league, we've got to stay ahead of it. And I think that's what we do. We all go out and watch NBA training camps. We watch tons of NBA film during the year. We make changes during the year based on what we see. We've had NBA head coaches come down here and meet with us on what we're doing. So I think it's gone pretty well at a championship school. We still have not won a national championship of basketball. That's the next step. We've been to a Final Four, but we got to keep knocking on the door, and that's, you know, it takes a little bit of luck, and you just got to be good and good enough to be in the equation every year, and eventually you knock that door down and get one.
Coach, I know this is a busy time. You guys are preparing to go on the road for Texas A&M. Thanks so much for making the time.
No, I appreciate it. You've been great. Love reading your stuff, Adam. So really glad you had me on as your first guest on it. Good luck with this, and roll Tide.